edition of Spark Accounting Solutions live Facebook broadcast. What we're going to talk about today is the 5 ways QuickBooks Online makes collecting money from your customers easier who doesn't want that process simplified and automated and easier. My name is Jennifer Quinn. I'm your host today, and I'm excited to bring on guest Julie Babcock-Hyde. She is a certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor, a CPA, CFM, so many designations. She's the president and founder of Spark Accounting Solutions, and I'm excited to have her on the show today. Welcome, Julie.
Hey, thank you. I am excited to talk about collecting money because I think we all remember when we started our business, that first check we got. Do you remember that? Some of us actually frame it or frame the first dollar.
Right.
But getting paid, you know, there's a lot of wins that we have as a small business owner. Getting a new client is always a fun win. Getting some great results for our clients is a good win. But getting paid also always feels like a win, right?
Well, totally. And I want to know, from what you have experienced, you know, working with small business owners, what's the level of stress that most business owners have over the difficulty of collecting money from clients?
You know, it's amazing. It really depends on kind of the client's billing practices. Clients that are still like billing after the fact and then waiting to get paid, that cash flow can become a real stress because they might think their terms are net 15, which means they're going to get paid 15 days after they bill. But most of the time, even with net 30 bills, those are getting paid in 60 days. So when you're invoicing clients and waiting on payments, it can be really stressful because a lot of the times you've got bills to pay ahead of time and you're getting paid after the fact. And so it's important to really find any way that you can to make collection and invoicing as smooth as possible and get money flowing in as quickly as possible, because that's the lifeblood of your business.
Well, right. Why are you in business if you're not collecting money and making a profit?
Exactly.
Before we jump into the ways that QuickBooks Online can simplify the process, I'm curious to know, just rough guess, how many small business owners today, in your experience or what you've read, how many are actually automating this process and how many are still, you know, doing old school, like manually going in and sending the invoice, etc.?
You know what? I really don't have a good statistic for that. I'm letting you down here as far as statistics go. I know there is definitely a move to, I mean, how many bills do you still get in the mail? You still get quite a few in the mail, right?
It always surprises me. I'm like, why are we doing this still?
Yes, because then you also get bills that show up in your email box, and you're like, oh, I guess I should take care of that because here it is sitting staring at me. So there's so many little ways that people have started automating, started going paperless. You know, some of the bigger companies, they exchange all the data electronically, and so there's no email, there's no paper going back and forth at all. It's all just done via electronic data exchange. So there's a lot of ways that it's moving forward, but I think a lot of our smaller businesses are still kind of old school and haven't always implemented all of this stuff that makes it easier.
Well, and to be fair, it's a learning curve.
Yes.
It's a learning curve for not just the small business owner and their team, but also for the customer, right?
Well, yeah, if you're used to getting a bill, you know, a month after the fact, and then all of a sudden you're getting the bill right when it happens, it's also a cash flow change for your customers as well. Because now all of a sudden you want to get paid sooner. You used to wait a month to bill me. What's going on? You know, right. So you're right. Managing that process and expectations for everybody is important, both internally and on the customer side of things. You want to make sure they know what to expect if you do make any changes as well.
All right. Good to know. Well, those of us who are running a business, we don't keep up on what's the latest and the best and the cloud accounting and all the different web-based things. And so that's why you exist, is to educate us and inform us on the options. So let's jump on in. We're going to talk about the 5 ways QuickBooks Online makes collecting money from your customers easier. Number 1, and you already touched upon it, but let's just go ahead and jump there. Email your invoices easily. Let's talk about that and how that shifts the flow of business.
Well, in this day and age, there are more and more businesses that don't even have a physical location, right? And so one of the things that is really beautiful about QuickBooks Online is not only is it web-based, but they also have a nice app. So when you are, let's say you're fixing somebody's refrigerator, and you get done fixing that refrigerator and you need to generate an invoice. Back in the day, you would have to go back to your office, type up that invoice on your desktop-based accounting program, and then drop it in the mail. Maybe you emailed it, but now you can take out your tablet or your smartphone, pull up the app for your accounting software, and like I'm a QuickBooks Online fan, so that's why I usually talk about QuickBooks Online, but you can pull that up. You can invoice your customer right there and be done with it immediately after the job. There's no going back to the office because let's be honest, if you've been running around from client to client all day, customer to customer, fixing things, you get home at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is probably sit down and type up invoices. And I have seen this with a lot of service-based businesses. They will forget to invoice people because they forgot where they were at, or they put it off for so long they feel guilty invoicing. And so I've seen businesses that have lost tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Just because they didn't have an easy way to invoice when the job was done and they had to go back and do more work. And so being able to generate that invoice immediately and deliver it via email gets it, I always call it getting something off of your to-do list and on your to-done list.
Yes.
It's to-done. So it just makes things easy if you can actually email them. It also gets that invoice to your customers even faster. Even if you are going back and generating the invoice back at the office for some reason, emailing it is going to get it to them probably 2 days faster than mailing it.
For sure, at least. Yeah.
Which means it's going to get it into their accounts payable process sooner. So if you want net 30 and it takes 3 days for the bill to get there, and it's probably going to take 45 days. The sooner you can get it there, the faster that clock starts ticking and the faster it gets into their accounts payable process so you get paid.
Awesome. And now, so this is what I'm thinking about when you're talking about service-based businesses, and you may already have planned to cover this in later with one of your tips, but I just want to ask you, what about, because we go, like, I just had this amazing massage, I'm not going to lie, like last weekend. But what he did was he just swiped my card right there on the spot. And then I got an option of an invoice. So how does that apply in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do that in QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online with your phone, if you get their Go payment reader, you can connect right in there. You can generate a sales receipt right in there, swipe the card, and collect the payment in your app so that it's all processed and you don't have to go record anything later either. It's all done.
And it's done.
And paid for too at the time that you did it.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
I said it's all done and paid and into your accounting system right after the service is done.
That's my favorite option. Okay, let's go on to number 2 and Intuit Payments. I'm going to be honest with you. I do not have a clue what you're talking about with Intuit Payments.
Perfect. So Intuit is the company that creates QuickBooks Online, and they have their own payment processor. You can choose who you're using for your merchant service provider. And for most of our clients that are using QuickBooks Online, we do recommend using QuickBooks Payments or Intuit Payments with it. And the reason that we recommend using that payment service right in there, right in the system, is because it automates things for you. So when I send out an invoice to one of my customers, I'll have the buttons checked so that people can pay me via ACH or by credit card. And so when they get that invoice that shows up in their thing, it says, here's how much you owe me, pay now. They can click that pay now button. They can pay by credit card or by ACH, whichever one I pick, or both. And when that is done through QuickBooks Payments, it automatically posts the customer payment to their account. It records the deposit into the bank account, and it records the QuickBooks payments fees, because there's always fees when somebody processes a credit card for you. Again, it's automating all that data entry for you, so you don't have to do it. It's done.
Beautiful.
It is really beautiful. And one of the things I want to comment on that, a lot of people hesitate accepting electronic payment options because they don't want to pay the fees. So I want to address that for two reasons. Number one, there is a cost associated with getting paid by check. You have the delay of having the check show up.
Okay.
You have the administrative time of actually processing that check, posting the check. Maybe you have to drive to the bank. Maybe you're using remote deposit on your phone, but there's time associated with that. And so a lot of people are like, I don't want to accept credit cards because I have to pay 3% fees or whatever. And while that is true, you also can't forget that there's a cost associated with accepting checks. And you also need to know that ACH payment through QuickBooks Payments is actually free. So if you have your customers pay you via, basically it's an electronic check, right? They're providing their routing number and their account number, and that money just automatically gets deposited into your bank account. There's no charge for that.
Nice. Now, for those people who have digital products that they sell online, or physical products that they sell online, does either Intuit Payments or QuickBooks Online, does that integrate with the websites?
It does not do as good of job as some of the other payment processors. So a lot of our clients that are doing, online payments, getting paid through their websites, are using Stripes, or using some of the other really popular payment collection processors that are out there that are better suited towards collecting in an online shopping cart type environment.
Sure, of course. But then that payment processor, for example, Stripe, that would go straight into your QuickBooks.
Some of them do and some of them don't.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different processes. E-commerce, I will be honest with you, is a very complicated world.
Yes.
And there's a lot of different ways that people are selling online, and each one of those platforms and each one of those shopping cart tools have their own nuances. And so if you are selling online, I will just say, and collecting money online, it's important to make sure you're working with an accountant who gets that all set up right.
Well, I was just going to say that. I was just going to say the learning curve for me to take the time to sit there and figure out which one's going to work best for me. Number one, the time would be ridiculous, and it would also make my head explode. So I was just going to say that's why a person would come to someone like you, because you know all the pros and cons of all the different platforms and what integrates and what's, perfect. I love it. Before we go on to number 3, I just want to welcome the viewers, both live and replay. If you have any questions or comments, please share them. And if we can't get to them live here on the show, Julie will jump back in and comment. This is the, international symbol for comment on your post or on your comment. Respond to your questions. Okay, perfect. So we just did have a comment. Richard said, side note, I would love to see a graphic of Jenny's head exploding. Thank you for that, Richard. It's probably not hard to come up with that, but his side note was this. His first note was this. Intuit Payments goes straight into QuickBooks Online, unlike PayPal. Good to know. He also said, payments saves me a lot of money. Oh, Intuit Payments. I didn't see that first part until I popped it up there on the screen. Okay, very good. Okay, so Richard, thank you for that. And anybody who would like to draw a graphic of my head exploding, please share that as well. Okay, Julie, are you ready to go on to number 3?
I am ready for number 3.
All right, this is Invoice Reminders. Love this.
This seems like an obvious thing that we need to do as business owners. If we send out an invoice and we haven't gotten paid, we need to send a reminder. In QuickBooks, online. It's as easy as pulling up your customer list, seeing still who still owes you money, and you can go next to that little invoice. There's a little drop down thing that says, "Hey, send a reminder." It's got some automated text in there that you can set up to say whatever you want, like, "Hey, my kids aren't going to eat this week if you don't pay me," or a picture of your cat saying, "I'm hungry," or whatever it is. You can change that text to something funny or something serious and send out that invoice reminder so that you get paid. But people forget how easy it is. They think they got to go print out the invoice, mail it out, but it really is as easy as a one click, "Hey, pay me. Don't forget me."
Don't
And
forget me.
done.
Now, can you also see whether or not your customer has opened the invoice and has viewed it?
Yes. When you send out your invoices via email, there are a couple different ways to send them out via email. If you send it out as a PDF attachment, you're not going to see it. But if you send it out through the standard QuickBooks Online process, I can absolutely see whether my customers have viewed their invoices or not. And I can absolutely see they're highlighted who's overdue. They've got green if they've paid. So it's really easy to see what's going on and whether people know that they owe you money or not. Yes.
Yeah, that's really great. I know I'm not alone in saying that I just don't like to remind people to pay me, but the buffer between sending a reminder that comes from the third party, right? Yes. The QuickBooks Online, then it's like, oh, it's not me personally nagging them. It's, by the way, because I really believe most people want to pay you. They have intentions of paying you, and life gets busy.
Right.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. And
Yeah.
if it's as easy as clicking a button to just send an automated message, as opposed to feeling like you have to sit down and write a collections letter to say, "This is your second," the informality of just clicking a button does make it feel like a lot less work to follow up.
Okay, I want you to speak to this. Richard says sales receipts are better, but reminders work too. What's the difference?
So with a sales receipt, you're basically getting paid at the time that you've provided the service. I think that's what Richard is trying to say. And so the nice thing about, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of this other automation stuff coming up soon, but when you do a sales receipt, you're basically getting paid at the time services are performed. And who wouldn't rather get paid when services are performed than than having to wait 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, whatever your terms are, plus probably 2 weeks, because that's realistically what it takes people to pay. So yes, if you can get paid in advance or you can get paid at the time of services, that is much preferred than actually invoicing.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I love that. That's really a good point, Richard. I like that way better too. I went through a pretty long, probably longer than it should have been, learning curve with my consulting, where now I require payment before I even start. That's just what I do. Yeah. Because that works for me. And so I know it doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but that would be an example of a sales receipt.
Exactly.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Richard. Okay, so let's move on to number 4, and that is add-on apps for additional collection support. Ooh, okay.
There are all kinds of apps that you can add on to QuickBooks Online.
Okay.
And if you're having a problem getting paid, there are apps that you can add on that will do reminders for you automatically. There are apps that you can add on that you can automatically, with a click of a button, send people over to collections. There are apps that you can add on where they will send reminders and then they will have people call. And so there's a lot of different apps out there. I'm going to name a few, but please know that these are not a complete list. So there's one called Callbox, which is basically turning people into collections with a click of a button, and they will do the collection activity for you. There's another one called Debtor Daddy. There's another one called Invoice Sherpa. There's another one called AR Collect. These processes, these apps are out there to help make these processes easier and to automate them. If you are out, let's go back to our refrigerator repairman. if you were out running around from job to job, repairing appliances, do you have time to make collection calls when people haven't paid you?
Not likely.
Probably not. You
Right.
might do it, you might remember to do it in the truck between jobs,
Oh,
but then you're fumbling with papers and you're trying to look up who owes you money and call them and everything else. If you can get this in an app and get somebody else to do this and support this process for you, how beautiful is that? It's it's basically you've got an AR department for you now, an accounts receivable department working for you, but you have nobody on staff. And so if you can use these apps, some of them are all just email. Some of them have actual bodies that pick up the phone, and some of them take it to the next step to collections. And so finding one that's going to work with what you need done is critical, but it makes it so easy.
yeah, I love that so much. I love delegating those things.
Yes.
So Julie, I was trying to, while you were saying the different apps that would work, I was trying to type them in the comments, but then it went too fast. Would you mind after the broadcast going in and putting those in the comments?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. All right. Very good. All right. So we've talked about what to do if you're not getting paid. You've got the add-on apps. And now this one sounds very exciting to me because I'm a huge Google Calendar fan. So this one is bill directly from your Google Calendar.
So there is actually an app out there called Invoice with Google Calendar. It's an app that you can add onto your QuickBooks Online. And if you live in your Google Calendar and you track who you're meeting with and how long you met with people in your Google Calendar, this may be a really good fit for you so that you're not having to bounce back and forth between QuickBooks Online and your calendar to figure out who to bill. And if you get this set up right, you can actually bill your customer directly from your Google Calendar.
Very nice. That's very nice. Anything that we can do to stay in one app at a time. So Richard added, so I had call box completely wrong. Thank you, Richard, for that correction. Let me put that up there. He said there's callbacks, Invoice Sherpa, Arcolect.net, and something daddy. So it went really fast. So Julie, go back in and fix that. But thanks
I will go add those in because I think and like I said, these are not a complete list. And I forgot one that I want to talk about that I just saw recently came out was Late Fee Manager. QuickBooks Online, last I knew, new features come out all the time. So if I'm lying, I apologize. I'm behind the times, but I don't think they do automatic late fees. And so there's actually an app called Late Fee Manager that has come out that will send reminders and automatically add late fees to your QuickBooks Online invoices as well. Late fees are another good way to motivate people to get you paid.
They motivate me as a consumer. Totally.
Yes. Totally. Half the time you don't pay the late fee, but you do get that bill paid because you're like, there's going to be another one in a few days. I got to get it done, right?
For sure. So, yeah, for sure. So, yeah. And it's fair. I mean, it's fair. We're all, it's all about the exchange of the money. So yeah, totally.
Exactly. Businesses need to get paid. That's because we have team members and other contractors and services that we have to pay for as well.
Exactly. And that's the agreement that we all entered into when we started the transaction. So, okay. So here is the bonus tip. And interestingly, this is what I asked you about before we went live, and you were like, this is the bonus tip. Exactly. Don't steal my thunder. So here it is. Automate your billing with recurring transactions.
So in QuickBooks Online, you have got the ability to make all different kinds of recurring transactions. But some of my favorites, especially when it comes to accounts receivable, number one is recurring invoices. So if you bill somebody for the same amount every month, you can generate a recurring invoice. It's going to get delivered to them. They're going to schedule a payment, however they pay you. And that happens auto-magically every month. You don't have to do anything. But we can take it up a notch. And this is the way that I bill a lot of my people that have recurring monthly services with me, which is via an automated sales receipt. And so an automated sales receipt processes each month. I have a payment method on file for that customer. that I have gotten when the contract has gotten signed. I set up a recurring sales receipt that happens automatically on the 7th day or the 10th day or the 15th day, whatever day I tell it to each month, and I get paid every month that way. And you can do it with credit card or with ACH. So again, if you want that no charge, you can look at ACH. The cost of a free ACH is waiting a few days for your money to show up, longer than paying the credit card fees. So,
Okay.
but it's so beautiful because that collection process is done. There's no conversation. You've had the conversation with your customer in advance. You've agreed on a price, you've agreed on a payment method, and now you're just implementing it and you don't have to do anything. The system just brings that money in for you every month. Obviously, it tells you if something goes wrong because it happens sometimes, right? Somebody's account will be overdrawn. Somebody's credit card will have expired. It'll tell you if there's problems, but 90% of the time, everything just happens smoothly and you've got your money showing up.
Well, I think it's like a win-win, like a multiple, like a win times 6 or something, because as a consumer, I don't want to think about it anymore. I have clients who say, please, please, please just save my information. Don't send me an invoice every month. They don't want to be bothered. Even though it's so easy to just go in and click the pay now, they don't want to think about it again, right? And then like all the things you just said, I love, love, love it. And so this made me laugh. So Richard said, sorry about the sales receipt spoiler.
No, but it's true that it's a beautiful process if you can have that money collection thing automated. If you've already negotiated the price and you know what it's going to be every month, why not just automate that? Because not only does it reduce your workload, but it reduces your customer's workload as well.
That makes me very happy. The fewer times we have to get distracted from our actual work, the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. All right, Julie, this was awesome. What are your final thoughts about, like, what would you say to somebody, a small business owner who's listening to this, they're going, but to slow down and take this jump to go to the learning curve, to make the transition, again, I'll use the phrase, would make my head explode. How can this be simplified?
So I guess I would encourage everybody to figure out what your biggest pain point is around invoicing. Mm-hmm. Is it getting invoices generated on time? Is it getting paid on time? Is it figuring out the easiest way to collect money? Is it going to think, what's the biggest pain point? And then reach out to a professional that can help you solve that. If you have an accountant you're working with, reach out to them. If you don't, feel free to reach out to me. There are ways that we can talk about to make things easier. And I am all about making things easier for small businesses. So reach out for help so that you can make your life easier and make more money.
That sounds so nice. I love that. Make life easier, make your life easier, and make more money. Yay. Okay, Julie, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for the information. If you have questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Thank you to the viewers, the live viewers, the replay viewers. Let's just go. I love that. Make your life easier and make more money. Boom. Mic drop.
Yes.
Thanks, Julie.